Welcome to the Hive with Us podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Martinez. Today I have special returning guest, Mr. Josh Lawlor. If you have not seen the other episode, please go check it out. We talk about film shoot rentals. But today is episode Deal Breakdown. We cover cool and interesting stories. And since he's in the film shoot rental business, we're going to ask him what his cool and interesting story is that he has about film rentals. It could be bad or good. Let's find out.
Yeah, so I think thanks for having me on, Daniel. Thanks for having me back. And so when I think about the film shoot rentals that I've done, there are a couple interesting stories I think are worth sharing. So one is the time that we made over $11,000 in one day. So we were doing a shoot for a talent agency. And when I say talent, this is like professional executive search agencies. So corporations that are looking for technology talent might contact an executive search agency and say, I have a need for, a developer who knows, Python or, experience with, Java or something like that. And so this company, it was interesting. The owner of the company actually lived on the opposite coast of me. So I'm on the East Coast, and this guy and the company are based in Seattle. But they were working with a production company that was based in Brooklyn, which is commutable distance from where I am. And so they actually flew to my location. And so, again, for anyone thinking about doing film shoots, you don't have to be in a certain part of the country. You don't need to be in a big city. You don't need to be near LA. It really depends on either the location of the company that's creating content or the location, or you're nearby a production company. So in this case, the client kind of flew out to us. In other cases, we've had instances where the client is local and a production company will come. So we were doing a shoot, a one day shoot for this company, and it was a full day. They're trying to pack a lot in, which is typically the case, right? Because it's more cost effective when you're planning, and if you've got
you got all the cameras there. You got the cameras there.
You got the cameras.
You got the actors there. Everybody's there.
Yeah, 40 person crew, and so that was kind of on the bigger side for us, but well within kind of the normal range. And one of the things I recommend in film shoots is you don't just want to set a daily rate. You want to set tiered pricing. So in our case, our tiered pricing starts at, our base rate is $600 an hour. And again, we are in a higher cost part of the country. So, you can adjust based on sort of where you're living. That's kind of more of a metro area pricing, I would say. But it floats, if you're in a lower cost part of the country, a little bit lower, fine. So that would be our base rate for, say, a 1 to 10 person crew. So, but this shoot was over 40 people. And so we set tiered pricing. So our hourly rate just increases with the size of the production. So these guys came, and for whatever reason, they were kind of running behind a little bit. And so they asked if they could, stay a little bit later and do overtime. So this is something that it's not super common, because usually the crews are, kind of well-oiled machines, but sometimes a crew will come and they'll find a part of the house where they'll realize that, oh, this wasn't part of our plan, but we want to do a shoot, we want to get some extra shots. And give you an example, like we were once doing a shoot and for a children's line, and then they saw the laundry room and said, oh, you know what, this would be good. Actually, do you mind if, I know this wasn't part of the plan, but can we shoot there? So they took a little bit more time. So that's what happened with this shoot. So they ended up needing a couple extra hours of time to do the shoots. And so after everything was said and done, it was a long day for the crew, not for me, because I was just kind of hanging out in my home office while they were working. But after the shoot, I think, so it must have gone about 13 hours or so, maybe 13, 14 hours. We always have a cleaning fee. And by the way, when you're renting your house for film shoots, you can charge time and a half for overtime, just like if you were working a job. Yeah. So if your base rate is 600, your overtime is going to be 900. But our rate was even higher here because it was a bigger shoot. So you can imagine the numbers go up. And so at the end of the day, this ended up being a shoot. We made a little over $11,000 for 1 day shoot, and that's when I kind of knew that I was onto something with film shoots. So that's kind of it was the eye opener for me. So that was one story. I don't know how much time we have, but there's.
This show is sponsored by HiveMind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
No, I got questions.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So one thing I didn't answer this, but if you've been doing this for a while now, do you do direct booking now to kind of save on pure space pricing? Because the middleman always gets paid, but if you can, and I know Airbnbs that kind of they'll try and like get their customers that pass through. That way they can book their business again if they pass through again if they're seasonal.
So it's interesting. I actually don't recommend that, and I actually have a story that where we learned the hard way. Why? So I actually always recommend people going through a platform, like a listing platform. And the reason I recommend that is because there are built-in protections. And I'll give you an example of a time that we didn't do that. So early on in our film shoot rental journey, we got an inquiry from someone through one of the standard platforms, and it was a pretty small shoot. So we're talking like an 8-person shoot, would have been very non-disruptive. And for whatever reason, when these guys submitted their film shoot permit to the application to the town, this was the first and only time a permit has ever been rejected. They were rejected. Oh, let me back up. Sorry. So these guys were a small shoot, and they said, look, our budget's really tight. What if we don't go through a platform because, just like you said, we want to avoid paying the fee. You can avoid your, portion of the fee. And we were kind of naive, and then they said, our budget's really tight, and it should have been a red flag for me. Whenever anyone's sort of talking about tight budget, that should be a red flag. But I said, okay, we figured, it's such a small shoot, not a big deal. But we still had them go through the town permit application. And like I said, the first time ever, the town rejected the permit. My theory, it wasn't because we've had much bigger shoots, much more involved shoots. The reason my theory that they were rejected is because these guys were just jerks. They're kind of people, like the way they interacted with you. And I could just imagine them sort of, hounding the town saying, why isn't this approved yet? When is this going to get done? And it was sort of that sort of attitude. So anyway, that was a surprise. And we were, disappointed to not be able to do the shoot. But a few weeks later, we got a sort of rather threatening letter from the legal department of this marketing agency that was doing the shoot, basically saying hey, and we had done a direct agreement with them, and they're a company and they have their lawyers, so we signed this agreement. And again, we had never had a shoot rejected, so we didn't even think that was, from the town permit perspective, so we didn't even think that was an option. And so they sent us a letter demanding money for the sunk costs for the shoot that they couldn't do. And we ended up sort of negotiating and talking them down, but we still ended up having to pay them, I think, around $800 or so, just to kind of make the problem go away. So instead of making money from a shoot, we ended up having to pay money. And that was the last time that I ever went direct and avoided a listing platform. So I know a lot of people may want to save, a few $100, but I recommend going through the platform. There are all kinds of protections built in, from damage to a third party that you can escalate issues to. And so to answer your question, you know where I stand on this one.
I'm just glad I got a good and a bad story, because I think everybody's like the good, and you're like, what's really the bad here? Yeah. And I think that's a perfect example. That's why I really want to ask it too, because as much as everybody teaches the good about everything that they're doing is good, there's always the caveat. And one thing I've known is that usually through the third-party services, they have the insurances coverage and all that stuff.
Yep.
And if you don't have that, you're gonna have to get it done yourself.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. I highly recommend going through the listing, sort of a valid listing platform. Recommend getting the permits from your town. And look, the reason, like I said, people maybe be reluctant to get a permit or worry that the production company that you're working with isn't going to want to pay the permit, kind of permit fees. But any professional crew is used to dealing with a local municipality. They are, and again, it's a red flag if they kind of raise issues when you bring up the permit question. So
there you go. I think that's great. I think for everybody here, filmshootrentals.com. Where can people find you online besides filmshootrentals.com?
People can email me, josh@filmshootrentals.com. But yeah, the website's the best place to go to learn more and learn about my course.
There you go. Check out the other episode, man. I think it's a good opportunity. Good opportunity to create cash for you. You don't see the opportunity. I think this is one of the things where I like doing interviews like this because it's one of those things you don't know what you don't know. And now that you know, you can do better and see better and possibly monetize it. And hopefully y'all can take advantage of that.
The other, and I hope we have time, but this is like a 30-second story that I think that does look kind of cool.
We're rolling.
That we haven't talked about. But the other thing too, sort of the non-monetary. So, again, when we say film shoots, people often think feature films. Again, if it's not obvious yet, we don't do feature films. They're typically one-day commercial shoots. But we once we were working with an esports company, got this kind of, esports betting app, and they had relationships with professional athletes, in all of these cities across the country. And they were doing a tour of creating content with their celebrity sort of professional athletes spokespeople. And because I'm near New York, this happened to be they were working with a star point guard from the New York Knicks. And so it was kind of surreal to do this shoot where, we had the star point guard from the Knicks just kind of hanging out in our living room for this interview and a shoot. So, in addition to the money, sometimes you get the occasional celebrity, just hanging out in your house.
Interesting. I think it's one of the, like I said, I think I talked about in the other episode, I talked about how they had the music video. See, you don't know who you're going to meet and network with when you're doing unique stuff like this.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. Interesting, man. I think it's dope. For everybody here, go check it out. FilmShootRentals.com. I'll say it again. FilmShootRentals.com. Go check it out. We're gonna get something going and make some money doing it as well. So, for everybody here, go share the episode. If you find it interesting, leave us a a review. You know what to do. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Josh, for coming on. And for everybody
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, we hope you're enjoying this content. If you have leads that you need to dispo anywhere in the country, please visit hivebc.io, like hivebuyersclub.io, and we'll help you move those deals that you need to get into the marketplace.